Good evening and welcome to Biztech's Community Conversation Show, the show where we engage community leaders to understand and highlight issues facing the broader community. Today, our conversation is with the Make It Right movement and its CEO, Brian Lariche. We talk about two of its initiatives, specialjobs.com.my and freemakan.com. Now, Brian, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Brian. It's good to be on.
Now, Brian, let's start by giving us an overview of the Make It Right movement and how you were started and funded.
Okay, so the Make It Right movement primarily is the corporate social responsibility arm of the Brickfields Asia College Education Group. Okay. Now, the Brickfields Asia College Education Group is made up about, well, it's kind of organic between, it starts and chats. So we have about 26 companies at this point of time. And it started off as something called giveback.my before, it started as BAC Giveback, and then formally 5 years ago, the founder, Mr. Rajasingham, wanted to do something a little bit more sustainable and long run and with an impact, a measurable impact. And so the Make It Right movement was born. So primarily corporate social responsibility via community service. And who is our target audience? Our staff. We want to get our staff involved. We want to get our students involved. We have almost 9,000 students. And we want to get our stakeholders involved. Yeah.
Okay,
so, yeah.
So and how is this? This is funded via the college itself and the founder?
Yes. Well, initially, it's always been funded. We've never taken money from anyone else. It's always been funded by the college. But in the last 2 years, the Make It Right movement has developed a network of its own that it's become an advisory organization to the point that we actually apply for grants with international agencies. So it's also, we can't preach to our partners about sustainability when we are not sustainable ourselves to some degree, you know what I mean? Okay. So we always have the safety net of the BAC Education Group being its CSR arm, but we want to put our money where our mouth is. So we ourselves financially have applied for grants from the Malaysian government and from international agencies, and we've won to the tune of more than 1.5 million ringgit worth of grants in the last year and a half.
Okay, what are your focus areas in terms of reaching out to the community?
Well, it's everything and anything, but as you know, everything and anything doesn't work. Huh?
Yes.
So yeah, everything and anything, because we have a student body, we have a very varied staff, 9,000 students. If a student comes to me and says, Brian, I want to do something like this, then we will help them, even though it may not be in our primary goal. But primarily, the SDGs we're looking at, Sustainable Development Goals. We are looking at disability rights, or disability. Mm-hmm. We are looking at B40, elevation of poverty, and that is the two main pillars that we have. And of course, education, number 3. These are the 3 areas that we are looking at, and we want to ensure that this is how we work. We are open to anything else as and when the need arises, but these are our primary goals: elevation of poverty with B40, education, and we're very big on disability. In fact, my team is 70% disabled.
Okay, now tell us about some of the projects that you've been involved in the last couple of years.
Oh, there's so many. I mean, on average, we do capacity building for about 200 to 250 NGOs, social enterprises. We support them. Even they may be a social enterprise, but we don't charge. All our services to NGOs are basically for free. We do things like capacity building, governance, finding them interns, fundraising. So we've raised on average per year, not for us directly, but for our partners, over 4 million ringgit per year. Initially, we used to give out about 1 million ringgit, but there's a limit to what the BAC Education Group can give out. You know what I mean? We are not poor by any standards, but we're not to the point where we can dole out millions and not worry about it. And again, the bigger issue again is sustainability. It's not about giving out the money, because I can tell you there are projects that we've done where the cost of doing the project costs more than the donation we wanted to raise. You know what I mean? Which is kind of pointless in the first place.
That's
so
right.
Yeah, so we are looking at sustainability very much. So yeah, so one of the biggest projects we did B40 women education, teaching B40 women from a very simplistic point of view. No high end, no going down to the ground, 4 weekends, working with the women on how to start a business on their own, to the point of registering a business, finding your market, understanding your niche, what is your unique selling point, even going to the point of teaching them how to use their cell phone to take pictures of their services and products so that they can sell, so that they don't have to depend on a third party and don't get cheated by anyone. At the minimum, they can manage on their own. And it's worked very well. We've almost, in the last year that we've done with about, I think, 400 women, about 200 of them, half of them already have started businesses after we initiated that. So we began the first developing their product or their branding, developing their collaterals for advertising, developing their logo, things like this we help them with.
Okay, so one of the things which is very interesting is how you help other NGOs in terms of capacity building. So I would take it that you would do things like program management in terms of helping them with the funding, as you pointed out. Also in terms of strengthening, I suppose, their operations themselves, because not all NGOs are very well structured. Is that the sort of capacity building that you were talking about earlier?
Yes, and unfortunately, I don't know if people realize it. There are almost 170,000 NGOs in Malaysia for a country of 33 million people. It used to take, 10 years ago, it used to take about a year to register an NGO. Now, thanks to our efficient government, it takes 5 days.
Wow. Okay.
So on average, in the last 4 5 years, the NGO capacity has grown in leaps and bounds. Where you had to meet the guy from ROS, and he had, he will tell you he didn't like the color of your logo and why you had a name like that. It's all automated now. We have e-roses and it's very quick to register. So therein lies the problem. Everybody and his uncle is starting an NGO. When you don't know what to do, you start an NGO. And so the market is flooded. And let's be real, there are pro-government NGOs and non-government NGOs, you know what I mean? And so that is also an issue. A lot of NGOs have become politicized. So, it depends on which NGO you're working with, what is their purpose. In general, NGOs have started by a need to make a difference. So the heart is there, but maybe the capacity isn't, you know what I mean? I want to make a difference, but I don't have the technical skills and the know-how to do it. And especially in a world today, dealing with social media, dealing with, with what you are doing. I mean, for them, that concept is too difficult. Oh, are we going to go on radio live? Why am I seeing your face if it's a radio show? You know what I mean? These kind of things towards the older generation is not clear. It sounds simple, but they just cannot even cope with it. So yeah, we do simple things like hooking up young students who need money for their schooling and putting them as part-time interns to support the NGO in doing social media marketing, in putting up their IG messages, their Facebook messages to reach out to the younger generation. The same problem over and over. There's no continuation because the older generation is retiring. There's no younger generation to take over because it isn't appealing to them. You know what I mean?
Okay. So one of the things, therefore, that was very, very important when you have so many NGOs is really corporate governance. That's something that donors are very concerned about. Is the money that I'm donating going to the right people or going to the right target audience? What are the measures that you have in place in the Make It Right movement to ensure that your donations, the donations that you receive, are actually spent wisely?
Well, if it's a society, there are multiple ways, by the way, to register an organization. That today is not the platform to discuss that, but let's take the most simple one, ROS. If you are an ROS, by default, you're a public body, right? So your registration should be easily available on e-roses for me to see. You should have a website, right? And your your board members should be transparent and put on the website. If you have Lembaga Hasil Dalam Negeri tax exemption status, that's a good mark. That means the tax office has already checked you out that your accounts are up to order. Okay. By right, you should be submitting your yearly accounts and your annual general report every year, right? Okay. And one of the most important things you need to do is to check how often they have a meeting. Okay. Some NGOs don't even have a meeting every year because it's decided by one person and the 6 other committee members are superfluous. They're just there for decoration only. Okay. Then you know that this is not an NGO, but it's a personality that uses an NGO as a vehicle, which sometimes, at some rare occasions, it can be completely worthy. But you as a corporate body, you don't want to be associated with with a personality. You want to be associated with a, with a proper legal entity, not with a personality, because then issues come clouded with governance after that.
Yeah. Now, I want to zoom in on two key projects that you're working on this year. And for a start, let's talk about specialjobs.com.my. Tell us about this.
Now, anywhere in the world when you go, by default, 10% of the population is special needs. You can call it special needs, differently abled, your choice. It doesn't change their status by giving them a different name. But the proper name is PWD. That's the name that we use under the UN Charter, person with disabilities, PWD. In Malaysia, we use the word OKU, orang kelainan upaya or orang kekurangan upaya, depending on your line. Yeah. So at any one time, 10% of any population of any country is OKU, of which 50% don't know that they are, or technically don't realize that they are, because of the fact that mental issues, mental health is still a huge stigma in this country. Many people actually are in the autistic spectrum, but don't realize that they are. They've never gone to get tested. So if you take that into account, we have 34 million people in Malaysia. We have 3.5 million people who are OKU conservatively, of which only 500,000 are registered.
Okay, and those people registered are probably less able in terms of disabilities related to sight or hearing or
hearing, yes, or physical. In my case, I'm physically disabled. I'm officially an OKU this year due to an accident last year. So I've injured my leg so badly that part of it had to be amputated. So that's why I'm now. So anyone, the reality is any one of us can come and OKU at any one time if we don't realize it, and that's why it's so important to realize, that this category can apply to everybody, not just somebody else's son or somebody else. It can apply to you too at any time, because you don't realize it. An accident can happen at any time. So yeah. So and the fact is, the government is trying to get 1% of any company to be made up of OKU, and the reality is, it's far, far, far from that. Basically, hiring a disabled person is generally tokenism. So we created special jobs.
That's very sad, because a lot of them, people who are disabled or less able physically, mentally can perfectly do the job that they're supposed to be doing.
Absolutely. Okay, let me give you an idea. My number 2 is Amanda. Amanda Kong is blind, and she was the top law student in the world and graduated from the University of Liverpool with the first-class honors. Right? And yet when Amanda and I go out for lunch, I always tell the story. When Amanda and I are out for lunch with the team, and Amanda is sitting next to me, the waiter will come and ask me what she wants to eat. So I tell the waiter, she's blind. She's not deaf or dumb. You can ask her herself. She knows what she wants. She doesn't need me to tell her what to order on her behalf. But that's the sad reality. Human nature is such that we cannot deal. We are uncomfortable with the disabled. So because of that, we sort of, tapau it to the left, to the right, so that we don't have to deal with it face on, right? And that is the major problem. But I have a designer who is 90% blind. He does all my videos for me. 90% blind, Brian. So you can imagine, he has to use the magnifier to look at the work. The work is not perfect, but at the end of the day, we are proud enough to send it out commercially. So, if you're given the right incentive, and I'm telling you, I know some of them are listening now, they will remain with me forever because they're completely loyal and dedicated. And that is the difference. You will have the absolute lowest turnout. You'll have the absolute, and I focus on ability and not disability. Just I take into account, okay, you're blind. This is the limit. There are certain limitations. I can't show Amanda a picture and expect her to give a response to a design, for example. But everything else, she responds. In fact, the majority of my clients, when they're emailing Amanda and me, never even realize that Amanda is blind. Or neither is Suhan, for example, the one who did the video. So when they're talking to him, they tell him ABCDE. I said, no, you can't see that. You have to explain. And then they realize it's quite a shock for them. And I have someone with cerebral palsy who can't speak very well because of having cerebral palsy, a physical condition. And he's a web designer. So it is really quite interesting. It's watching. It's almost like a comedy watching My Office in play when everyone's trying to communicate between sign language and funny noises and stuff. But it works. It works really well, and I think we punch way above our pay grade, all of us. The true teamwork. The 2 + 2 is not 4, but 2 + 2 is 7.
And so specialjobs.com.my is really a website that's giving the opportunity for the differently abled to post their resumes, and also for corporations who want to make a difference to post jobs that they may have available.
Yes, yes. So to supplement both of that, we do 3 services at Make It Right Movement. Number one, any person with a disability can come to us and say, I want to enter this line of work, but I'm lacking this kind of training. So we have a separate project called Project Deep and Project Entrepreneur, where we do training with Perkeso for free. So we link them up with that if they're capable of doing that. If they're not capable of joining the mainstream classes for whatever reason, then the Make It Right movement will create a bespoke class for them. But of course, we're not going to do it one-to-one. We don't have the time. So we will try and gather 5 to 8, maybe 10 people, and then come and do a training. The training will be completely free. We will absorb the cost. This is part of our CSR.
Okay.
So that's number one. Of course, a company can also come to us. So the big boys have come to us. We've worked with DG, for example, to completely sensitize their website so that their website is now blind friendly. Now, actually, when I last year when I had my operation, right, I was in hospital, and of course, for those of you in the government, in fact, even a private hospital, sometimes the food isn't the best. So Amanda would be kind enough to order me a meal every other day and send it as a surprise to me, via Grab Food or Food. She could only do it via Grab Food. She couldn't do it by Food Panda because Food Panda is not blind friendly.
I see. Okay.
A blind person cannot access the site, but a blind person can access Grab Food. So if you're looking at the 60 to 80,000 blind people in the country, let's say 50% of them are savvy to use the internet, right? Let's say this a round figure. That's 40,000 users Grab Food has lost.
Mm-hmm.
And if each of them spend 10 ringgit, per month, you're looking at how many million per year.
Yeah.
So don't forget that the disability market is a market too. It's just they're not disabled, but they're human beings and have a potential to be a consumer, to be an employer, or to be an employee for that matter. So that's what we do. So we provide, and the third thing we do is that we provide training for corporates. We train a corporate on how to learn and accept. You train your HR on how to assimilate a person with disability. What are the issues you're going to face if they're blind, if they're deaf, physically disabled? How do you need to prepare the building physically to accept a person with a disability? So that's what we do at Special Jobs.
And the thing is, who are besides DG, which you just mentioned, who are some of the corporate partners who are actively involved in this initiative?
Quite a number have come to us. Like, for example, Roche, the pharmaceutical, wanted us to give them a talk. So what we do is, I will usually give the talk, and I bring a few of my colleagues who are disabled along with me. So the talk is given by me and Amanda and 2-3 other of the staff. And then during lunch, we disperse ourselves among the 100 or 200 staff in the hall or wherever we are. Usually they're about 50 to 100. And then they sit down on an individual basis and ask them questions. I have a PA who's autistic, right? So they ask them, and the whole idea is to take away the stigma. Just because you're autistic doesn't mean you're going to go crazy and jump on you. It's not true. So of course, every disabled person is different, just like you and me. You know what I mean? So you need to look at the audience and who you're hiring, and with the right HR that is trained properly, you actually get an asset way above the non-OKU, in my opinion.
Now, if I'm a corporation, how do I get involved in employing the less able and differently able?
Well, you can go to our website and put down what are the jobs available at specialjobs.com. And at specialjobs.com.
Specialjobs.com.my, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. And also in that there's a email. You can email my colleague Rachel, who also happens to be a special needs a person living with a rare disease, and she will answer you. And and if you need any personal, so for example, McDonald's reached out to us and they want to hire X number of people. So we looked through the 500, 600 CVs we have on specialjobs.com and extracted the top 20 that is suitable for them to interview. But now with the MCO, everything is put on hold, unfortunately, because of the live, and that's also part of the difficulty. That's the only issue that you will have. Generally, working with OKU, it's easier to meet them in person. It's hard to do it, via Zoom. You can, but it's not the same.
Yeah, and I want to do a personal message to all corporates out there. Hiring the disabled can also be very profitable. So let me give you an example of my personal actions. I like to have meetings in the Bangsa Village 2 outlet Starbucks. The only reason I do that is because that outlet employs differently able people. I think they either are deaf and dumb, or sometimes basically deaf and dumb, deaf or dumb, or deaf and dumb. So essentially, it's a great corporate initiative by Starbucks to support those individuals. I think that's been going on for years. I've been going there for years, and that outlet is the only outlet I think that does that. And so that generates, and I have all my meetings there, and I know other people after I brought them there for the first meeting, they have their meetings at that outlet as well. That outlet is always full.
Yeah, so, I actually was involved in the training in that outlet. Actually, we used Starbucks Foundation hired me to train the staff on how to look beyond Starbucks. They didn't want them to be just, that's the good thing about Starbucks Foundation. It's not about just the barista being there. It's also about training other people who are deaf and mute to have the ability to go out and look for jobs. So we ended up using the Starbucks Bangsa as a training center, so it's a good corporate initiative. I think it's a great effort by Starbucks Foundation.
Yeah, and it's also very good. So one of the things I've done is I have a now teenage daughter, but when she was a little bit younger, I took her to that outlet because a lot of us are very uncomfortable around the differently abled people. So that was a kind of a good way. And I made her do the order, and obviously it took longer and so forth. But that's a very good way to expose children, for example, to people who are less fortunate than they are.
Absolutely. I think it's very important. And that's also part of the problem in our system now, right? It's about exclusion, putting disabled people in special schools. We should mainstream them. If not, our children are never going to be comfortable with someone who's autistic, or someone who's blind, or someone who's deaf, or someone who's walking with a cane or sitting in a wheelchair. Children will look at them different because they look obviously different, right? But they don't realize it, right? They don't realize it. So we create the stigma ourselves. So if we stop it, then it's going to make a big difference.
Now, another issue you're tackling right now is feeding the hungry in Malaysia, a terrible product of our MCOs right now. Now, tell us about your freemakan.com initiative.
Okay, actually, Free Makan, we have a website called giveback.my, and that was meant to be fundraising to support our partner NGOs for their different fund. But in the last month, the last 6 weeks or so, in June, we realized that the biggest call was for actually people were starving, or people are starving. They're not were, they are starving. So my founder, Mr. Rajasingham, decided to start this program very quickly based on the need that the society is basically starving and we need to feed them. So since June to now, we've raised more than R500,000. Okay. And we've matched dollar for dollar every ringgit donated to us. And we've bought, as of yesterday, 11,000 sets of food boxes to be sent out to families between 60
and what are these food boxes? What do they have in them?
The usual staples, all the dry food. Unfortunately, we cannot give vegetables. We cannot give fresh meat or fish. So we give things like tins of sardine, tuna, dal, flour, lots of noodles, dry noodles, rice, all the staples, sugar, Milo. So, for example, Nestle donated X number of Milo, so we donated all the Milo to the families. So wherever we can, we supplement with whatever people give in kind. Whatever people give in cash, it's a standard box we buy and give them, and not a single cent. For example, during the MCO, we couldn't deliver anything, so we hired Lala Move to deliver everything, and we paid that out of our pocket, so that not a cent of the donation given was used on transport. Every cent was put into the food and nothing else. And basically, we have staff now in the BAC group. We have about 300 staff, and not every one of them is working because they have to work from an office. And since we didn't fire anyone during the MCO, we are using these staff to also help us run the program when it's possible, you know what I mean? So everything is absorbed by us. The cost is completely absorbed by us.
Now, how do I get involved as a donor or perhaps as a volunteer?
Well, we can share the Free Makan, brochure, where there's a contact number there. You can call. To be honest, we're a little bit overwhelmed now, Brian. We didn't expect to be serving, we are getting calls from Sabah to the tune of 30 calls a day from Sabah alone. And it is a bit overwhelming. So we are now looking at more corporate bodies. And we also don't believe that we own the space. There's so many other organizations doing good work like us. So we're trying to now coordinate and try and, make sure that we don't repeat and don't overlap each other. So we're working with other NGOs. So what you can do is basically call us and let us know. The number is on the free Makan poster that's going to be displayed afterwards. And let us know that you want to volunteer, and you volunteer how? You can help us verify all the calls. We collect the numbers and then we call them back after that.
Okay.
Right, and there are thousands of people we have to call, so we need people to do that, number one. And number two, of course, you know, your donations very much accepted, very much used, and every cent that you give is 100% is given to the community. We don't keep any of it.
Okay, do you have the account details?
Not
okay,
on.
I have it.
Okay,
let me just read that out. So the account name is Make It Right Movement Sendirian Berhad. The bank is RHB Bank. The account number is 21219800040683. I'll just repeat that. It's RHB Bank. Account number is 2121980000. So that's 0004063. That's correct, right?
Yeah. So, sorry, Brian. I'm so used to not asking for money. It's never in my mind to have it on my, you know, at the tips of my fingers. As you can see, other information I have, but the last thing I have on my account is my last thing I have at the tip of my fingers is the bank account.
Not a problem. So, Brian, before we end this conversation, any final thoughts from you?
Yeah, guys, you know, I think at this time in the pandemic, all of us are contributing, and we are not trying to overtake anyone. We would like to work in collaboration with everyone. And I beg all of you at this time, you know, don't worry too much about your professionalism, worry about the humanity, because things are so dire with so many families. Nobody is going to put a white flag until you've reached such a low level of, you know, desperation that you don't know what to do. So put aside your costing. If you can be a counselor, you can be, you know, in any way offer some kind of service, you know, please, and you have a decent meal on your table for your family every day, contribute, you know, help out, be a delivery boy, be a delivery girl, you know, something, but you can make a difference. I mean, it's truly kita jaga kita time now, and we have to do it together. Otherwise, you know, we are going to the dogs.
Now, thank you very much for taking the time to be on the show, Brian.
Likewise, it was my pleasure.
I'm Brian Fernandez. I've been speaking to Brian Lariche, the CEO of the Make It Right movement, on Biztech's Community Conversation Show. Now, this video will be on our Facebook and LinkedIn sites, as well as our website, www.biztech.asia. Please subscribe or like our various platforms. Thank you very much for tuning in.